What's up? Welcome in. Another Thursday, another episode of Lunchtime Live for you. It's going to be one of those shows. I'm not supposed to turn my microphone off when the intro plays. I turned it off, so I tried to pull a Mac because Mac is not here with us today, as always on Thursdays, though. My co-pilot in the passenger seat here, TJ, on a Thursday. Lots of shit to talk about. It is for valley temperatures here in Arizona. I'm going to go ahead and say it. We've gone a couple of steps past the tit-bit nipply outside. It is really damn cold for how it gets here in the valley. I'm not complaining. It looks like it's raining again outside the studio window that I left open. So it's going to be one of those kind of shows today. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. T, I'm going to let you tell the people anything you want to here for a second, because I'm pretty sure if I don't shut this window, this show's going to be about 3 minutes and probably never come back on. So I'll be right back.
I just want to point out for those of you who may have been sleeping last night that Macklin Celebrini is the real deal Holyfield. He has another 3 points last night. The Sharks get another win over the Kings in overtime, 4-3. This guy, you said it earlier in the season, Mike, how this year has been defined by the three Macs, and McDavid, McKinnon, and Macklin Celebrini, and they're still doing it. 44 games in. Your boy has 67 points in 44 games, which is great for my fantasy league and great for the San Jose Sharks. So they are also, other than the Avs, Wild, and Stars, the only other team that has more wins than losses. So go figure there, Mike. What are you thinking about your boy's chances now?
You know, I've talked about this, and I don't think for a lot of people this kind of resonates totally. But the last 3 years, I've always loved the Sharks. I was in their first game at the Cow Palace. I was in their first game at the Tank. Obviously, made a trip out to see them last year with you. The Sharks have helped me through some kind of dark times in my life. As many times as they got so close and just ripped our hearts out getting to that stage. It's the only team, and this makes me sound like a spoiled, entitled a-hole, but it's the only team of my teams that I've never seen win a championship. I've only got to see them, ironically. I think I was still living at your house when they went to the Stanley Cup Finals where they lost to the Penguins. So it's been fun to watch them. The fact that they have more wins in the Pacific Division than any other team in that division right now. And of course, with the young core, you can't help but be excited. They've been a right spot, right time kind of cash cow for me. I did it last night again. I didn't get the bet in before the game started. It was 0-0, I think 7 minutes into the first period when I got it in. And I went with the Sharks. I went with the over. I think the over total, I don't have the numbers behind it this year, but it's a team that likes to spread out the ice and move a lot. They play an exciting style of hockey. And last night I went with Toffoli, the Sharks on the money line, and the over, which had dropped down to 5.5 because the game was 7 minutes in. And Toffoli notches the first one. The Sharks have to come back way late in the game to tie it. They get the win in overtime. It's fun. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. We were kind of talking before we started about the Sharks and kind of I can't wait too much longer, because they're at about 3.5 to 1 to make the playoffs right now as we sit halfway through this. So that value is losing. I did put some money down on Macklin Celebrini to be the MVP. Don't think that's going to happen, but the fact that he's as high up on that list as he is, who knows? I think if the Sharks go to the playoffs, you got to take a long, hard look at why they got there, and we know why they're going to get there. It's number 71. But that Pacific Division team, we've talked about it a few different times here. And you're looking at Vegas at the top at 48, Vancouver at the bottom at 37. But then you've got, Edmonton 48 points, Seattle 47, San Jose 47, LA 46, the Ducks, who have hit a massive, massive slide right now. and they're at 45. And then, who cares about Calgary and Vancouver? They're still far enough back that they're not a factor yet. But I think the finish to the Pacific Division is going to be wild, which is great because I'm pretty sure the finish to the Central Division is exactly in its place that it'll finish right now with Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota. Mm-hmm. So I think the Pacific Division is going to provide a lot of drama. I think the Metro is going to give us a lot of drama. That's real jumbled up right now. And I like the top half of the Atlantic. I think we're having a really good start to the hockey season here. We've got a couple of other things here. Feel free to comment along if you're watching along. We're going to obviously get into the Fiesta Bowl and the Peach Bowl today. We'll make our picks for the Fiesta Bowl. Mac made his last night. TJ's also going to make his pick for the Peach Bowl, which is tomorrow. And then we'll have lunchtime live tomorrow. We'll obviously also talk about our favorite 6 plays for Wild Card Weekend here. But some interesting stuff last night in the NHL, including, I swear to God, T, it looked like a damn skit from a Saturday Night Live last night. And if you missed this one, make sure you look it up. I'm not going to play it on the show. Last night we played a cut from our own show that was flagged by one of our channels that you're watching us on right now, and we thank you for that because of a copyright violation. Apparently our own intellectual property isn't our own intellectual property, and that's why some of you guys missed us for a couple minutes last night on Facebook. But look this up because it's well worth your laugh. The Blackhawks pounded the Blues last night 7-3 in Chicago. Jordan Binnington, not a good night, got lit up like a Christmas tree for the Blues, and they went to make a switch. And the only problem is when they went to make the switch, and maybe it's Hoffer, maybe it's Hofer, he's a backup goalie for the Blues. I don't really care that much, but he was nowhere to be found except for right there when the camera focused in, spotted him hiding down the hallway behind the freaking bench. Binnington didn't want to come out despite getting blown up like he did. He ended up not coming out. Dude, when you see the Twitter cut of this, and there's a million people that are sharing it today, because again, it looked like something out of a Saturday Night Live skit, and the look on the coach's face was freaking priceless. Nobody knew what was going on, and then all of a sudden, like something out of a horror movie, there he is down the hallway going, I ain't going in there. You see how bad Binnington's getting lit up? I'm a backup for a reason.
Dude, he wanted no part of that game whatsoever last night. The Blackhawks were just laying the lumber.
Mama Mac nailed it there. Full Bobby Valentine.
And you can't blame him. I mean, like the Blues aren't very good, and that stinks, but it is what it is. I mean, you talked about the Pacific and Calgary and Vancouver, and they're down there, and the Jets are in one right now. The Blues, the only team of those that I really think will make a move is the Jets. I don't think they're that bad. They got to figure it out though on off. I watched the game against Vegas the other night, and it wasn't. They got 3 across, but they didn't look very good doing it. So, but yeah, it's tough times in St. Louis, which stinks. They got a big decision to make with Jordan Kyrou if they're going to move him at the deadline or if they're going to hang on to him long term.
Do you want to know the most Vegas Mac of all Vegas Mac moves? Mama Mac says he went full Bobby Valentine. We just posted that on the screen. Mm-hmm. Well, here's a correction to that story. Good Lord. We said hockey's been all about the Macs this year. Macklin Celebrini, Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, Vegas Mac. It's all been about the Macs this hockey season. Those of you that have watched the show since its inception, that is the most Vegas Mac thing Vegas Mac can do right there.
Stuck in the wrong. Didn't you two write a song about that? I'm stuck in an email that I can't get out of.
Probably, and Mac was probably there for the very first time they ever played it in some little dive bar before they became a big deal. The NHL through The Athletic, and this is a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to get to this one. There's been so much going on, so much time off here. They ran a poll of who's got the most punchable face, who's the most punchable player in the NHL. There's your top side of it. A lot of the other guys down there were at like 1 point something percent. So for graphic purposes, Sam Bennett is at the bottom at 2.8%. Nick Cousins, the most punchable face amongst player surveys done by The Athletic. I don't think the second 2 guys who are teammates now on that list is any surprise to anybody. Did you see anybody left off the NHL's most punchable player list that you think should be added?
No, I
I would
think this.
add Revo from the Sharks, but I still don't think he knows he plays for the Sharks after the other night.
This is about what I had in mind when it was first mentioned. I'm like, yeah, I bet Marchand's up there. I bet Kachuk's up there.
Yeah.
Nick Cousins does not surprise me. But here's the thing: if you talk to the Ottawa Senators, they will tell you dollars for donuts that Nick Cousins is a fantastic teammate. And if you talk to the Florida Panthers, they'll tell you that Brad Marchand is a great teammate. Period. End of story. So
Yep.
these players who may have the most punchable faces, they're fantastic teammates, and they're the types of players that you don't want to play against. But if they're on your team, dude, you want them in the trenches with you every single game.
Mike Ricci is a guy that jumps out to me like hated
Oh,
Mike
that's a good
Ricci
one.
until
That's
he
a good
played
one.
for the Sharks, and then Mike Ricci was like one of my favorite all-time Sharks. So, and I mean that's hockey for us. That's what we know. I mean, look at who's coaching Philadelphia right now. You
Mhm.
can't get a better player fit mentality than what's happening in Philadelphia, and obviously we're seeing some decent returns for it. Let's get into some football news and notes from today. Your boy Mike McDaniel told reporters on Monday he would be part of the Dolphins interviews to hire a new general manager. Today, Dolphins owner Stephen Ross came out with this quote: "After careful evaluation and extensive discussions since last season ended, I have made the decision that our organization is in need of comprehensive change. I love Mike and I want to thank him for his hard work." Well, I thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that commitment and energy he brought to our organization. Hey, here's what everybody needs to listen to, since some of the people in our comments, they really need. Mike is an incredibly creative football mind whose passion for the game and his players was evident every day. I wish him and the
Mhm.
family the best moving forward. Interesting to say extensive discussion since the season ended, because you could have started that in late September, because that's when the Dolphins season ended. I don't think any of us are shocked by this. The interesting thing here, and I heard on Adam Schefter's podcast today in how it pertains to a situation like this, and John Harbaugh being out on the open market here. You can't fire your coach thinking you're going to get Harbaugh. And that's going to be
Mhm.
the interesting thing with some of these teams here. Because if Miami was going to fire Mike McDaniel thinking they had Harbaugh, and Schefter's point was this, and I think he nails it. You have to be dead set that you want to move on from your head coach if you're going to attempt to go that route. And you
Mhm.
better damn sure make sure you have a great backup plan in place. It doesn't appear right now that Harbaugh and Miami would be a match, but I'm interested to see how this plays out. Your thoughts on your boy, Mike McDaniel, looking for work?
Well, I mean, I think once again you get into a situation here where he was a great coordinator, but just not a great head coach. And
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of variables this year with the Dolphins. Like Tua has been, for the most part, a disappointment for the Dolphins, and I think they need to make a decision there whether they're going to cut bait with him or not. No Tyreek Hill on offense as well. You got other weapons there, but he wasn't able to utilize and maximize the weapons that he had. And if you're an offensive coordinator turned head coach and you cannot get your offense working, that is a huge problem, because how are we supposed to expect you to make other decisions when the seemingly easy decisions you cannot make? So it stinks for him. Good for the Dolphins for recognizing that they need a quote comprehensive change or whatever he said. This thing is it's not good in Miami. They needed to bottom out, and I don't think they quite bottomed out this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think getting rid of the GM, getting rid of the coach, possibly getting rid of your franchise quarterback may be a step in the right direction for this team.
Yeah, and they're going to continue their path. They're expecting to hire a GM soon. Interim general manager Champ Kelly, he interviewed for the job. San Francisco 49ers director of scouting and football ops Josh Williams, Packers vice president of player personnel John Eric Sullivan, and Los Angeles Chargers assistant GM Chad Alexander. Kelly's already completed his interview, so those are the other guys on the list. I'm interested to see, because I could see a couple of places where I think there's very low risk, high reward on Mike McDaniel. Arizona would be one of those. They're going to have, assumingly, a new young quarterback either this year or next year. I think we're expecting the Cardinals to yet again suck next year, so I think there could be some upside. Or does he go the route that Robert Saleh did, got a bad situation, wasn't able to turn it around, went back to where his bread was buttered in San Francisco. Obviously, his name has popped out now. Robert Saleh is for Arizona and Atlanta. I think Saleh will be very careful in where he goes next, and I don't think he's in a rush to go anywhere. So does Mike McDaniel go back there? Here's another tie to Mike McDaniel. And if you know anything about the story of Mike McDaniel and his personal battles, him and Dan Quinn, very, very close. Dan Quinn, who, that's an interesting situation in Washington, because we're hearing now today that there's, and this is still a problem apparently with the Commanders' situation, that there's a lot of meddling from the front office in what's going on. It didn't sound like the Commanders, at least from Dan Quinn's standpoint, wanted to move on from Cliff Kingsbury or Joe Witt, and they did. And one of the things that came out yesterday was in relation to, remember the weird situation with Ben Johnson where he was supposed to go interview with Washington and didn't for the second time? Apparently he didn't interview very great. There were some quotes that came out late last night in talking about this Washington situation in general, that they're basketball guys running the Commanders who think they know a lot about football. That's going to be interesting, because I think a healthy Commanders team with what we saw last year was a team we were all really high on the year before last year. Last year, obviously, the injuries this past season here. And now this change up front. And does that change Dan Quinn out of there sooner rather than later? I'm not saying I think it's going to be this cycle, because it's definitely not going to be. But that's a problem that's gone on in Washington for a while. So maybe that is a spot for Mike McDaniel. But I'm really interested to see where he goes. On the flip side of things, then we get to the situation with Tampa, where Tampa Bay has gone out today and fired their offensive coordinator, Josh Grizzard, as part of a complete overhaul of the coaching staff. He was the first-year offensive coordinator last year. They also fired special teams coordinator Thomas McGaughey and quarterback coach Thad Lewis, defensive line coach Charlie Strong, and cornerbacks coach Kevin Ross. So clearly, I think we're seeing some of the writing that was put on the wall for Todd Bowles here. You can come back, but you're going to overhaul this entire staff. We stated our thoughts on this on last night's show. Mac and I, even on Tuesday. In addition to the firings, senior offensive consultant, legend in the game, Tom Moore, 87 years old. He's retiring after 62 years of coaching. And Nick Rapone also retired at 69. So complete overhaul of that Bucs staff. Yeah, let's point the finger at the offensive coordinator who didn't have his full offense really at all this season until the very, very end, and questionable if they're healthy or not. But let's keep Todd Bowles. Makes a lot of sense.
I don't think Josh Grizzard made that silly call in that silly defensive call when they stayed in the Tampa 2 and didn't put anybody on was it Atlanta or Carolina? I don't know who, it doesn't matter. On that Thursday night game that gave up the game-winning field goal. I think it was Atlanta. I don't think Josh Grizzard had anything to do with that call, and I think that's a call that would start and end with Bowles. It wasn't Josh Grizzard who didn't call the timeout to set up the fourth down defense. It wasn't Josh Grizzard whose defense couldn't stop a freaking beach ball when they needed stops this season. So, but yeah, let's continue on with this Tampa Bay charade.
Yeah, exactly. And it'll be interesting to see what happens there, because we talked about it a little bit yesterday. I mean, you've got the Panthers that are on the rise. The jokes that are coming out about the Panthers, you can say what you want about it. They're in the damn playoffs. Just deal with life right now. But they're getting better. Atlanta, I think if they hire the right coach, is right there. And the Saints think they found something in Tyler Shough. They've already said he's going to be the starting quarterback next season for them. They need a lot of help on that roster, but they were also way more competitive than any of us thought. So if you've got a roster like Tampa Bay does, it is inexcusable to me to sit here and have that situation be the way it is. And, when you look at it, I liken Tampa Bay's situation to what we saw this year in the NFC West. You saw the Rams, the Niners, and Seahawks beat the hell out of the Cardinals, and they all split with each other. So when you look at the division record, your three top teams in the division all at 4-2. It should be the opposite there for Tampa Bay. They should be the ones every year that seemingly get to 12-5 fairly easily. And I think that's what everybody's going to be watching for, because as we said with Todd Bowles, he's got a losing record as a coach. So, and granted, some of that was from from New York when he was with the Jets, but he's still just 35-33 as the Bucs head coach. I think that seat is warm as hell already for next year. Interested to see how they go through and pass a lot of stuff on and replace basically their entire coaching staff. A couple injury news and notes for Wild Card Weekend. The Rams have ruled out right guard Kevin Dotson, again with an ankle injury. Terrence Ferguson, Jordan Whittington, and Josh Wallace all listed as questionable for Sunday's game or Saturday's game against the Panthers. Devontae Adams has no injury designation for that game, so they're expecting him to play. The Panthers also are very optimistic. This comes from a report from David Newton of ESPN that they'll get the return of guard Robert Hunt, which I think against that Rams defense is massive for them. Full participant in practice all week. Couple other news and notes to pay attention to as far as Wild Card Weekend goes. Trent Williams of the Niners not practicing still, puts his status for Sunday's game against Philadelphia in doubt. Same with Ricky Pearsall. Still no word on Lane Johnson for the Eagles. We've got football tonight, though, T, and it gets us going here in the Fiesta Bowl. Is number 10 Miami takes on number 6 Ole Miss. Tickets as low as $61 if you want to go to the game. A little bit of line movement here. The total has stayed the same at 52.5. The line has shifted down a little bit today from 3.5 to 3 in favor of the Hurricanes. We've talked about X factors. We've talked about a lot of everything going into this game. And I think the biggest key in all the conversations we've had and just looking at stuff, listening to other people's perspectives on it, can Miami keep Trinidad Chambliss in the pocket? If he gets outside of the pocket, Mac talked about this game getting off script. I think that's bad news for Miami. Interesting angle, too, and this is maybe somewhere that some people want to play this game, because I've talked to a lot of people that are kind of split. A lot of people on the Ole Miss side, a lot of people on the Miami side. I don't have the money breakdown up in front of me just quite yet. I'll get that here in a second. But I think one angle to play this game, if you're on the Miami side of things, is maybe, just maybe, Ole Miss gets the ball, they go down, drive down the field, score a touchdown, they're up 7-0. Maybe then if you're on the Miami side, that's where you jump in on a live bet here. I think more people are inclined to go that way than if the situation were to flip. How does this game get to one side or the other from an advantage standpoint to you? What's the key to getting that first half number right where you want it tonight?
Man, I think you just said it, like the first drive right out of the gate. And that was one of the big things about when Miami played Ohio State, is they were able to get that first score. And once once Ohio State started chasing the game, they were toast. And then that interception return for a touchdown was pretty much the dagger, in my opinion. I after that, I was just like, this game's got to be over. And I kind of was like watching it, but not really watching it, because the defense was so fast. They were so strong. It was obviously the best defense that Ohio State had seen all year. So same thing here, man. If Miami gets out in front and they can get a lead and put that defense on the field, that's going to be bad news for Mississippi.
Yeah, absolutely. Public money, if that's something that you factor into which way you make your bets, to each his own, not something I do. This is based on the report from Action, so about 75,000 bets here. 58% of the bets and 57% of the money on the Ole Miss side of things in this game. It opened at 3. It's back down to 3. Lowest odds it looks like you can get tonight's game at is minus 102 if you take the +3 on Miami. If you go 3.5, or if you take the +3 on Ole Miss, if you go 3.5 on Miami, some places showing it at +100 here. I'm interested to see what happens if Carson Beck and the Canes get stuck behind the sticks, if you will, stuck behind the game script tonight, because I don't know, with the talent that they have, and I'm talking about guys like Malachi Toney here and stuff like that from Miami. I don't know if I've got the confidence, despite how well he's played, and I gave him his flowers after the last round. I don't know how much confidence I have in Carson Beck leading a comeback in this game if Miami finds themselves down in a 14-6 kind of layout here. I think the physicality that the Canes bring, the elusiveness that Ole Miss brings, Mark Fletcher, and how do the Rebels slow down Mark Fletcher? Because if Mark Fletcher gets loose and he starts doing his thing, that's not a good thing for Ole Miss. And we've seen Mark Fletcher change the direction of Miami games this entire postseason, especially the game at Texas A&M that Mac thought was a horrible game and I thought was a good game.
Well, yeah, I mean, he went off for 172 in that game, but it was him. It was because of him that they were able to hang in there so long and then finally get the win. It's just a matter of, do you have enough trust in Carson Beck at this point? And in the two playoff games, he's been perfect as far as doing his job, being a game manager, not turning the ball over, and he's got to just have more of that. But you're right that if they get in a position where they're chasing and they get second and long, third and long, consistently, like, what are we going to see out of Carson Beck? Are we going to see the awesomeness of Carson Beck, which led him to Miami, or are we going to see the Carson Beck that throws interception after interception?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're looking for some of those other bets, if you're in one of the states that lets you bet college player props, a lot of people on Mark Fletcher's yard total from the ground today, over 88.5. Do you have any interest tonight in the first half spread? It's 24.5. I think either way, I'm leaning towards this game being under the first half spread. I think if we see a lot of points in this game, it's going to be more on the second half side. So I'm in a weird spot because I did grab this early and I played the game over 51.5. Mm-hmm. But this first half number at 24.5 is kind of an interesting spot. I'm on the Rebels side tonight. I did grab them at plus 3.5. I still like them at the field goal. If it goes below that, I don't love it because I think it is. You kind of gave me some crap the other night for dismissing this one as clearly the second option of the two games. I think it's an interesting one. I don't think I see a blowout either way, but I'm just going to go with the magic from the Rebels here. And as much as I didn't think it was going to be a factor for them, and whether they're playing in spite of Lane Kiffin or whatever, you've heard a lot of their players say, we were doubted at the beginning of the season. No doubt about it. The interesting thing here will be if Miami wins, and then they can go, see, nobody believed in the U. Like, you're Miami, dude. You don't get to say nobody believed in us and all that stuff. I like the Rebels plus 3.5. I'm not sure about the first half number. I also like the game total. I got it at 51.5. I think this game tends to kind of go over for me because I think Ole Miss is going to force Miami to have to put up some points in this game. So I like the Rebels plus 3.5 or the 3.
I think you made the comment the other day about the Niners and the Eagles, and you said if the Niners get to 27, is that a win? I think you can look at Miami the same way. Like, what's the threshold that Miami has to get to for you to be comfortable that they're going to get a win? And keep in mind, when they played Ohio State, 7 of those points came on defense. So the offense was responsible for 17. Is 17 going to be enough? Is the defense going to be, is Chambliss and the Mississippi offense going to be stymied by a Miami defense that keeps them under 17? And you look at you look at previous performance, A&M scored 3 and Ohio State scored 14. So, I mean, there's some data there. I'm on the Mississippi side on this as well. I played it. I'm playing it under, though. I'm playing it under 52.5, but I do like Mississippi plus 3. And I do like under in the first half. I think it's going to be a feeling out process. I could see this first half being like a 10-7 first half.
Yeah, and I'm also interested, and this is a factor for tonight's game that I don't think a lot of people are playing in, and I don't know for sure or not if the field has been replaced. But we've seen this before at State Farm Stadium when we have a new track laid out for some of these big games that stadium always hosts, including the debacle that was the field at the Super Bowl just a few years ago. So I'm interested to see if the layout of the field and the take to the field, if you will, has any factor in tonight's game. So there you go. T and I both on Mississippi side. I believe Mac was on Miami side, so that doesn't mean it's an instant fade, but if you're instant fading me and T, there you go. Let's go to the next game, which is tomorrow night. I won't make my pick for this one because I'll have some more thoughts on it tomorrow, but we've got the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, Oregon. Your 5 seed against number 1 seed and undefeated Indiana. Still, this game opened at a -4 for Indiana. It's down to 3.5. Public money, 65% of your bets and 65% of your money on 35,000 track bets on the Indiana side. This one I think is very interesting, T, because it's obvious we can go back to the first game and try and feel out what we wanted to feel out here. We know both of these coaches like to be aggressive. Both of these guys have a tremendous amount of respect for each other. Mac made an interesting point, and I think he was dead on last night when he was talking about this game, that he doesn't think that either team really played their best game when they played the first time. I'm looking at a couple of things for Oregon here. Number one, and this is why I'm humored by the people that are, still up in arms and have their panties in a bunch about Mac's comments about Dan Lanning yesterday, because here's the thing. We know Dan's going to be aggressive, and that's what Oregon does. When you go back to the first game, they were 3 of 14 on third down. They were 3 of 4 on fourth down. The Ducks were so 6 of 18 on those tough down situations. But it was the third downs, and Indiana. And I think this is spot on, but you tell me if it is or isn't. I think Indiana and the Seattle Seahawks are very similar to me. Indiana loves to put you in bad positions defensively, and then that's when they feast on you. And forcing the Ducks into those third and longs, putting all the pressure on Dante Moore in that setup is key here. So I think the number one thing I'm looking at from an Oregon standpoint here is you can't put yourself in those third and long positions against this Indiana defense, because much like the Seahawks, they feast on you when they put you in those bad spots. So can Oregon avoid the third and longs in this game, I think is the key. But I see a lot of similarities in the Seahawks and the Hoosiers.
No, I think that's bang on. And look, Miami, holy smokes, Indiana's second in the nation in third down conversion against 28%. So I mean, that's right there. You get this team in third and double six, and you have a really good chance of getting that ball back. We talked about earlier in the season how good Ohio State's defense was and how awesome it is, and Indiana is right there. I mean, they laid it to Ohio State in the Big 19 championship game. They took care of business last week against Alabama. This defense is really, I think it's underrated here. I'm hoping for Oregon's sake that they're going to be able to run the ball without Davison. But I think there's a lot riding on Dante Moore's shoulders in this game.
Yeah, there's a lot riding on him in this game for sure. And there's, a couple of key points here. And one of the things we talked about with Alabama was Alabama's inability to consistently stay committed to the run. And when you're only banging out, if you're lucky, 3 yards of carry on the run, that makes it hard to stay consistent to the run. I think Oregon really, really has to stay committed to the run in this game. 30 carries, 81 yards, 2.7 yards a carry the first time they played. A lot of that minus 27 yards for Dante Moore. Again, we know where that comes from. But when I'm looking at Jordan Davison and Noah Whittington in the first game, they had 13 carries between the two of them for 86 yards. So they've had success running the ball there. That obviously takes the pressure off of Dante Moore. One of the guys I brought up on Tuesday's show, T, when Mac and I were talking about our X factors in these games for Indiana, is Charlie Becker. Becker didn't play in the first game against Oregon, and we saw him make some huge plays in the Rose Bowl. We know what Surratt and Cooper are going to bring to the table. We know what Kalen Black and Roman Hemby bring to the table. I think the attention that gets spent on Charlie Becker, even if Becker isn't a main target of the Indiana offenses in this game, is key, because that Oregon defense in that kind of middle 8 positions, if you will, is where they really get you. If Becker can create some chaos there and put Mendoza looking into a situation where he's got one-on-one coverage, maybe the safety over the top on Cooper and Surratt, I think Becker could be a huge factor here. The other factor for me is simple with Indiana, because we know they don't make mistakes. I threw out the 27-point number with the 49ers, and if they get to 27, do they beat the Eagles? In this game, I'm looking at one thing. If Oregon can force two turnovers in this game, I think they win this game, because we haven't seen Indiana be in that position where they've made the mistakes. And that doesn't mean that they're going to, but if they do, we don't necessarily know how Indiana is going to respond to that. Indiana's a wagon. I think it's easy to see that Indiana is clearly the best team in the country. It's easy to see that Indiana is not going anywhere anytime soon. On the same token to that whole conversation, I want to see what happens to Indiana if they get faced with a little adversity. Yeah, they did go into Autzen and they won a game in a stadium that is very hard for anybody to win in. The only other time we saw Indiana really kind of in a position of danger was that game against Penn State. And that's been a minute. We haven't seen this team react to making mistakes. Can Oregon force 2 turnovers in this game? Because I think if they do, they can win this game.
Yeah, they got one last time, but they couldn't get the second one. I found it interesting in looking back that both of these teams were battle tested, if you will, against Penn State. I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, I mean, Mendoza is what he is. He won the Heisman Trophy for a reason. I know that I'm kind of concerned about how he's going to perform at the next level, but that has nothing to do with Friday. He doesn't make mistakes. You're right. This Indiana team is very good at not making mistakes. But this Indiana team, other than the Penn State game, I mean, the Ohio State game was close, but have they really faced a whole heck of a lot of adversity this year? I don't think they have. So if Oregon can get a quick turnover or a quick lead and force Indiana to play from behind, that's going to be huge to see what happens, because Indiana's season, other than the Penn State game and other than the Ohio State game, has pretty much been blowout city. So and the Iowa game, but how are they going to react if they get behind 10 points? Do they even have a chance to fall behind 10 points? Or are they so good that they just take it to Oregon? I think this is going to be a better matchup than the first time for sure. I like the fact that I kind of wish it was at Indiana, but I like that it's on a neutral field. I like that it's indoors as well, because that's going to, you know what that's good for.
We know exactly what that's good for. You know, you mentioned both of these teams kind of being battle tested, ironically, against Penn State, and that's what kind of sharpened both of them. And you're dead right there. I think the other game to look at too, which is interesting as a comparative point, is Indiana against Iowa, 20-15. Oregon against Iowa, 18-16. And that's another interesting one too, because I think we get a little bit more out of what we see out of these teams comparing their performances against Iowa than we would to Penn State. Interesting that they both struggled against Penn State, but I think that Iowa game is probably more telling here. And I think that's what it ultimately comes down to. I don't have to make a pick today. I get to take more time on it. You have to make a pick today, so make your pick. Peach Bowl, what do you got?
I'm saying Indiana. I think this team is a team of destiny right now. And so I'm going to take Indiana. And I also played this under 48.5. I know it's inside. We just talked about that. But I think this Indiana defense is for reals. And I don't know if Dante Moore is going to get enough chances here. Like you said, they need to run the ball, though, to be effective in this game. And if Indiana punches them in the face on the ground at the beginning of this game, I could see Oregon not taking as many chances on the ground.
I like them. I think the under is definitely a lean to me. I did grab the Ducks at 4.5 here. I picked the Ducks at the beginning of the year to win the national title for a reason. I think DeCorian Moore being hopefully as close to 100% healthy as he's been all year is a big factor here. I'm interested to see that. I'll have some more thoughts tomorrow. Super wild card weekend, even though you're not supposed to call it that anymore. Sue me. We've got 6 games here. In 12 days of Bowlsmas, we went 9-4 doing it that way. So we're going to try and go super for super wild card weekend, which means we bring out the ultimate equalizer when we're making a team pick and a team play like this. TJ's trusty loaded. Is that a quarter? Looks like it.
This is one of those gold dollars.
Ooh, oh man, we're bringing out the big coins for this.
You got the hardware today.
Is that so? This is a different coin than we used the first time.
I do believe this is a different gold dollar because the other one was a little more shiny. This one looks like it's been through a few vending machines.
All right, well that works. I mean, if it doesn't, then I'm blaming that, and you got to find the other one. But we've got some interesting matchups here, and I mean, I just look at that graphic, man. Is that not beautiful? I mean, we go through a lot of dredges of some really rough weeks in football to get to these kind of weeks. We've got 5 straight days of playoff football here. Man, that one's going to get replayed a couple of times, I'm sure. with obviously the Fiesta Bowl starting tonight. But when we get into Saturday morning, so what we've done here is we've each picked our favorite play for the game. We gave you a touchdown trio play last week. Tomorrow we're going to give you our 12 favorite player props for the Super Wild Card round. If you missed our touchdown trio last night, Mac went with Drake May of the Patriots. I went with DeAndre Swift of the Bears. TJ went with Kenny Gainwell of the Steelers. So we got you stretched out there from Saturday night to Sunday night to Monday. Mm-hmm. As far as this goes, we're going to get into these games. We're also going to give you our thoughts here. We'll start with the first one, which is Rams at Panthers. Back to the scene of the crime of a just atrocious performance from the Rams in a loss earlier this year. Public money on this one kind of split. You've got 56% of the bets on the Panthers, 69% of the money on the Panthers as well. That's about a 13% difference. So a lot of late number movement coming in on the Panthers. This line opened at 10. It is now at 10.5, basically everywhere. So some interesting stuff there. You know, I could see this thing going two ways, T. I could really see a situation where LA wins this game and they win it laughing and running away. Mm-hmm. This Panthers team loves to turn games into just muddy, mucky NFC South type games, and they've been very, very good at doing that all season. 5 of the 6 wild card games are expected to be close this weekend. This is the one that's not. Your first thoughts before we get to our picks here. Rams and Panthers, what are you looking at in this one?
I'm looking at the turnover battle here, and last time they played, the Rams gave it up 3 times to the Panthers, and so I think the Panthers need to do the same thing again. They need to force turnovers, make Matt Stafford throw bad passes, and they need to stop the running attack. Blake Corum ran crazily over them last time, 7 for 81. So, I mean, that's what I'm looking at is turnover battle, stopping the run, and get Stafford uncomfortable.
Now that my dogs have done singing whatever the hell they were singing out there, pest control guys here. Yeah, you know, I've believed in this Panthers team for a lot of this year, and I've questioned why a lot of times they've done me good and they've done me bad in the situations where I thought they were going to hit a little bit of momentum. Obviously, the play of Bryce Young is huge here. And can they get Teteroa McMillan going? Can they get something out of Xavier Legette? Coker has been fantastic for them as of late. I think it's an interesting spot for everybody that thinks that the Rams are in a great spot here because they get Carolina and blah, blah, blah. Well, for those of you that have forgotten how the NFL playoff works here, I'm looking at a situation when I look at the Rams. They're going out to play Carolina. Then at that point, you really are kind of hoping, I think, if you're the Rams, that you get some help from the 49ers. Mm-hmm. I don't think the Rams are scared to go to Seattle, but it's not an easy place to play. You know that place is going to be charged up to holy hell, that they're back in the playoffs as number 1 seed and the favorites right now to win the Super Bowl. But I think if you're LA, you're looking at a situation where if San Francisco were to beat Philadelphia, San Francisco would then presumably go to Chicago. I don't think you want to play in Chicago at this time of year with an older team at key positions like the Rams have. So I think if you're the Rams, you're going, I don't know which way we go here. I think the Rams have, honestly, the toughest pathway to getting to the Super Bowl if you look at it and you take away seeding. Just because of the amount of travel and stuff that they're doing here. I don't know which way to go on this one. So that means it's time to bring out a coin. You are on the Panthers at a plus 6.5 in the first half. I like the Panthers plus the 10.5. I don't like them at 10. So I'm on a very kind of Vegas Mac Switzerland path here. I like the hook at the 10.5. I don't know if I love them at 10. So let's see what the coin tells us we're going to do.
All right. So the way we're going to do it is heads, you win, and tails is my pick. So
because you're an ass.
Well, among other things, yes.
Yeah.
And it comes up heads.
So we are going with the Panthers.
I think that's
10.5.
I think that's a great pick. I'm like you said, the Panthers like to muck things up, and it doesn't seem like they're out of many games lately. So that's good news. And they're at home. You know that yeah, you can make all the jokes. They're 8-9 and blah blah blah, but they did beat this Rams team 5 weeks ago. So, I mean, there's that. So, I think it's a great pick taking them with 10.5.
Well, thanks. I hope it is. Otherwise, we're gonna be out of this one real quick. Second one on Saturday night. Amazon Prime is your destination for one of the oldest rivalries in all of sports. The Packers at the Bears. 8 p.m. Eastern kickoff on Prime. Green Bay opened at a -1.5. Still relatively there. 70% of your bets, 67% of your money on the Bears side, which you can get +1 at a -105. The plus money lines on the Bears, most of them are gone. So if you snooze, you lose.
Literally.
Third season in a row for the Packers as the 7th seed. It's the third game between these two teams this season. Obviously, the most recent one, pretty chaotic, wild ending. I think you can throw everything out the door on this one. I think it's also absolutely ridiculously egregious that the Bears were underdogs to the Packers in the current state of the Packers going into this game. You know what I'm going to say about Jordan Love at this time of year? Prove it to me before I hand you a bouquet of flowers here. Chicago doesn't turn the ball over very much either, and that's, I think, the biggest key to their success and why they've been able to have all these late-game comebacks. And while Caleb Williams might not look pretty at all doing it, he makes the plays in clutch time here. I think this line is absolutely egregious, but then again, there's a reason that Vegas builds a lot of gold buildings, and they set the Packers as the favorites in this one. Do you see any reason why you would consider the Packers favorites in this game Saturday night against the Bears?
I really can't. I mean, they're gonna have to get big games out of Josh Jacobs. They're gonna have to get a big game out of Jordan Love. The defense is banged up, which is a problem for me. The only thing I can think of is that Jordan Love's been in the playoffs before and Caleb Williams hasn't. But Caleb Williams is the world's greatest quarterback with the world's greatest coach. I don't know. And they're at home, and we've seen this act just 2 or 3 weeks ago. We saw this same exact act. So I'm not really sure. I think the wrong team's favored here.
Yeah, I definitely think the wrong team's favored here. Here'd be my concern if I were a Bears fan. And I threw out that number of 27 in the Niners-Eagles game that we're going to get to here in a little bit. Can the Bears score 30 points in this game? Because I think Green Bay, despite all the questions that we have about just their general health overall as a team, and whatever I think of Jordan Love in the postseason, I think Green Bay can get this game to 30. We've seen the Bears' defense is their Achilles heel, even though they do a lot of things really well on defense. Stopping people and gaining yards is not one of them. I think one of my favorite plays for this weekend, little teaser for tomorrow, is I'm looking at a couple of different numbers on Romeo Doubs, and I think I'm going over on Romeo Doubs everything in this game because I think he's going to be a key factor. I don't know if Chicago can get to 30. If Green Bay gets to 30, I think Chicago could end up dropping this game as the 2 seed, which would put Green Bay in Seattle next week, regardless of anything else that happens. That being said, we don't need to flip the coin on this one because we're both on the Bears money line. So if you were able to jump on the Bears money line early, I will make this bet before we get off the show. Now let's get into Sunday morning. And I've talked about this game and this team very specifically a lot. The Buffalo Bills, the Jaguars. This is the game I'm looking forward to seeing the most because I'm very much watching this Buffalo team with a fine eye, like I was a Buffalo fan in this postseason, because I think this is where the train ends for Sean McDermott, especially if they're to lose in this game on Sunday. This is an interesting one too, because there's a lot of people I think that feel the same as some of us do, as far as who Jacksonville really is. The spread opened up at 1.5 in favor of the Bills. It's now dropped down to the Bills plus a half at -115. You can get the Jaguars at +1 at -113. 59% of the bets and 57% of the money on the Jaguars side here. This is a really tough one, and I've kind of flip-flopped back and forth. So I'm glad I get to make an official pick on this one tomorrow. I do like Jacoby Myers as a factor here that could be huge for the Jaguars. But this game scares the hell out of me because I don't trust the guy coaching the best quarterback statistically in the playoffs over the last 5 years, but I damn sure trust 17-4 in that offense for Buffalo. What do you make of Bills and Jaguars here? This is literally a game that you need a coin to flip for.
Oh, this game's fascinating because you basically have. If I'm Jacksonville, I want to be like Buffalo. Like I want my quarterback to be as good as Josh Allen. I want my running game to be like the running game of the Buffalo Bills. And this team has put up points this season like it's a bodily function. Like they've been so good at putting up points. I don't know if they have the experience to hang with the Buffalo Bills. I'm not. That's where it's going to come down to for me because you got a first-year head coach versus Sean McDermott, who's been here several times. You've got a quarterback who's 1-1 in the playoffs, but he did that one win was a very memorable win. So
not if you're a Charger fan, it wasn't.
This is a game. This is probably my second game that is on my most wanted watch list behind Bears and Packers because it's two teams that are very similar.
Yeah, I think so. I think honestly you could see either team winning this game. Zone coverage, something that Jacksonville does a lot and something that Josh Allen is very good at. In fact, Josh Allen has the second highest QBR against zone coverage this season. Jacksonville last year couldn't get anybody to turn the ball over. This year, they've had a ton of turnovers that they've forced on the defensive side of the football. And with the lack of playmakers down the field for the Bills, like we've talked about, which is still mind-blowing to me, that Josh Allen doesn't have a legit number one wide receiver at this point in his career. I think that's another issue. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a fun one for Bills fans here. I really, really think what we've seen, the issues from the Bills in the playoffs past, probably do come up in this game. If I had to make the pick right now, and for the purpose of what we're doing here, I like the Jaguars on the money line in this game. I don't have any faith in Sean McDermott, the coach, even though I have faith in Buffalo to go to the Super Bowl because that was my pick. So, yeah, I'm going with the Jaguars. Maybe that's reverse psychology, Max style to help the Bills. I don't know.
It's like, what would Billy V say, right? I got Buffalo minus the points here. I think that the experience is going to win out. I think Josh Allen is going to be able to make more plays than Trevor Lawrence. I think the Buffalo is going to have a hard time running the ball against this Jacksonville defense. And yeah, I think it's kind of strange that Josh Allen doesn't have a number one receiver, but he's got three pretty bloody good ones. And so I think he's going to be able to spread the ball out. This is a game where you could see Josh Allen throwing the ball to 8 different receivers in this game in the first half. I like that. I like that they're going to be able to spread the ball out. I think Buffalo wins on a late field goal.
It's funny. If you asked what would Billy V say, there's a reason we call him the original Reaper around these parts because he's said it to me several times this year. This defense isn't good enough to win a championship. Holy shit, what happened there? This defense isn't good enough to win a championship. We know what he says. Bills fans, I feel for you already because I can promise you one thing. I don't think this game is a blowout on either side. I think this could actually be the closest game of the entire weekend if we're being honest with each other. I think the number is very interesting. All right, flip away.
Here we
is
go.
It Jags or Bills?
It is Bills.
All right, we're going with the Buffalo Bills.
Let's go Buffalo. Circle them wagons, baby.
That's that game, man. I think that game honestly it's a 1-point game, and it's a 1-point game with some kind of goofy ass final 2 minutes, which is just going to make Bills fans even more uncomfortable because of what they've been through with this team.
You are saying that on the 26th anniversary of the Music City Miracle. So, I mean,
You just picked a scab that had almost finished. Speaking of coin flip games, let's go to Philadelphia, where San Francisco travels there to take on the Eagles. This is your 6-3 matchup. Spread on this one and money as far as we go here. Opened at 3.5. It's 4.5. It's actually gotten to 5.5. I saw in one place earlier today. So a lot of people, And maybe the Trent Williams news has a lot to do with that. So you would think, oh, yeah, a lot of people, definitely on the Eagles side. Well, that's where you're wrong. 76% of the bets and 78% of the money on the 49ers side of this one, only tracking about 30,000 bets right now. So it's moved in a couple of places. One very specific one, I don't know if it's still there. It had moved to San Francisco plus 5.5 in this one. Not a whole lot of love lost between these two teams. And my big thing, and I'm looking at in this game, is the Niners have had an inability to run the ball successfully. We talk about all the numbers that McCaffrey has produced this year for the Niners, and he's been an absolute workhorse. But they haven't been able to successfully run the ball. Against Philadelphia, running the ball for 3 yards a clip isn't going to get the job done. We saw San Francisco coming off of their fewest points scored in the Shanahan era. A lot of that, Mike McDonald against Brock Purdy. Well, here's another one, though. Kyle Shanahan against Vic Fangio's defenses has not been a positive matchup for Kyle Shanahan either. We saw this in the NFC title game a few years ago when Brock Purdy got his elbow blown up. The next year, the Niners went into Philadelphia, beat the living hell out of the Eagles in the regular season. So I'm interested to see this one, obviously, for personal rooting interest, but just in general, because, again, this is a game with two teams that we're not really sure what we're going to get. We would expect the Niners to be shorthanded, go into Philadelphia, and, finally the sand ran out of the hourglass. But on the flip side, we've already seen this 49ers team have to go through this before. The other flip side of that is the Eagles' offense. And can Saquon Barkley get rolling in a game against a 49er defense that could not stop Charbonnet? They could not stop Walker last week. And if Saquon Barkley gets rolling, and I think this is why we're hearing a lot of recent steam now, everybody loving the Eagles, because the 49er defense is the matchup that could unlock the rest of what's plagued the Eagles offense. First thoughts, Niners and Eagles.
Yeah, all of those things you said are correct, but I'm concerned about the Eagles offense in finishing. And I didn't like what they did last week in not playing the starters in a game where you could have got the 2 seed and potentially gotten 2 home games in the playoffs. I don't think that strategy was very bold, Cotton. And I think for a team, if you wanted the 49ers, I think you're going to get a pissed off 49ers team that wants to show everybody that loss at home to Seattle was an aberration, and that it's not, that they're not going to see it again. And remember, that game was just 6 feet away from me in a 13-10 game until McCaffrey dropped the pass. So, there were quite a few turning points in that game, and that was just one of them. But I think you're going to see the 49ers at their banged up best on Sunday.
Yeah, and a lot of pressure for the 49ers on Eric Kendricks, who now has to step in and kind of be the green dot, if you will, on the defense, as Tatum Bethune's out for the rest of the year with the torn groin muscle in that Seattle game. And I do think that's why we're seeing that line kind of peak up to the 5.5 range, and I'm not surprised. I actually haven't bet this game yet, because I had a feeling we were going to see, especially when we got an update of Trent Williams, that number move, and it has a little bit today. I think the pressure on Eric Kendricks in the middle of the 49ers defense, the Niners are also just picked up Kaiser White, a former Eagle, former Cardinal, because basically every single linebacker they have. Here's the other thing to remember in this game with the 49ers. They're not going to be a team that's going to go into Philadelphia and be intimidated one bit by that crowd. They've been here before. They've done it. They've seen everything this group has. I think if Ricky Pearsall can't play in this game, I think this puts the Niners in a kind of a difficult position, because Pearsall, when he's been on the field, has been good. He's dealing with a PCL injury, which is a pain in the ass. I think there's also a lot of pressure on the Niners secondary in this game to hold up. I think A.J. Brown, any of your catch props on A.J. Brown, I think are great bets in this game, but I think that's where the pressure lies in this one. I'll have some more thoughts, obviously, on it on tomorrow's show. As far as we go on this game, TJ's on the plus 5.5 side of things, and again, you can get that at one book right now. I'm on a player prop here that you kind of tipped me off to, and I looked into it more after you said it. When we were doing our touchdown trio, I like Brock Purdy to score an anytime touchdown in this game. A lot of attention on McCaffrey. The Eagles defense, especially up the middle, is going to try and stop a lot of that. We've seen Brock. He's elusive. Way more athletic than you think he is. Obviously, against the Bears, he had a couple rushing touchdowns. So I like the value at 6-1 on Brock Purdy scoring a touchdown here. So Niners plus 5.5 is T's pick. Purdy for a touchdown is mine. The coin will tell us which path we go.
Let's see which way we're going. We are going Brock Purdy.
Hey, we get a little Purduggy at the link in the end zone. That would be hilarious because they're going to bomb car batteries and everything else down at him during that game.
I would love to see that, and I would love to see it be on the butt play. I would just love to see that.
Oh, that would be horribly ironic. Sunday Night Football. Chargers and Patriots. Speaking of the other team that played their way into the seed that they so desired, and I don't think this was actually a bad play from the Chargers in this game at all, because the one thing that New England has not done well this year is they don't have much of a pass rush. And with the Chargers offensive line situation, I think playing to a matchup here might have been a sneaky good play by Jim Harbaugh. There was a lot of guys that needed rest. Obviously, we know what Herbert's been dealing with and everything else. I think this might be a sneaky play for the Bolts because of the lack of pass rush for New England. And again, I'm interested to see now. You can tell me all the things about Mike Vrabel being the coach of the year. You can tell me that Drake may or may not win the MVP, but this is where it matters now. And I'm interested to see how this Patriots team comes out. What do you think of the show me your lightning bolts and the Patriots?
I think this is the game where Josh Herbert, Justin Herbert, whatever his name is, Brock Herbert, he needs to show that he is worth the investment.
Billy Joe Herbert.
Even better. He's worth the investment that the Chargers put into him. This is a guy that is making the coin, and he has not produced in the postseason. And now it's time. And he hasn't produced like it was the spectacular flame out against the Jaguars, and then they just had their freaking rears handed to him against Houston. So this is the game that I'm looking at. This is the show me game for me. Like, which one of these quarterbacks, Drake May or Justin Herbert, is going to show me that they are an elite quarterback?
Yeah, and geez,
easy for you to say.
All right, back to speaking functional English here. I don't think we have a bad matchup anywhere this weekend. I think all these games are going to be really good. They should all be very competitive. Naturally, we're probably going to get a blowout here. I don't think this is an example of a game that could be a blowout. I think this game, the total on this game at 46.5 on a Sunday night in January in Foxborough, and I don't have a weather report in front of me, but I think this game screams under out loud to me a million times over.
The last time I checked, it's going to be cold and it's going to be rain during the day.
It sounded like I said raspberry sherbet. I said something that wasn't English. Money on this one, 62% of the bets on the Patriots, 60% of the money on the Patriots as well. This line is basically held steady at its opening point, and I think it's an interesting one because 3.5, I think, is definitely something that's in play here. I think the other thing that I'm really looking forward to in this one is the 7 seed, and we've already talked about one of them in the Packers. The 7 seed the 7th seeds in the playoffs have collectively been slaughtered. This comes from Bill Barnwell's article on ESPN. Why can't I speak today? They've gone 1-9, 7 seeds, while losing of an average of nearly 11 points per contest. The only 7 seed to win a single game is the 2023 Packers, who beat the hell out of the Cowboys, and then Jordan Love threw away their chance to the NFC title game. So
that was because it was a Dak Prescott pick parade, though. So
yeah, that one was a rough one, and also very much enjoyable to watch. I think the matchup at running back here is also a very big key for me. Can the Chargers get anything out of their ground game? I also think that Arana Gadsden the second is a big factor in this game for the Chargers. He had some drop issues early in that game that we saw them lose to Houston a couple weeks ago. But I'm interested to see this one. As far as we go on this game, I can't wait till tomorrow's show, man. As you can see on the list, there's a lot of player props I like here. So in all of these games. TJ's on the Patriots -3.5. I'm on Quentin Johnston of the Chargers for 20-plus yards on his longest reception or more. I think there are going to be opportunities for Herbert to sling the ball down the field in this game, and Quentin Johnston has had a really good year in bouncing back from a rough start to his NFL career. So I like Quentin Johnston for a 20-yard reception or more in this one. Go ahead and flip away, my friend, as I'm trying to find this bet.
It is tails. We're going Patriots.
Patriots. Oh, so much for finding that. Let me go back to the actual game spread here. All right. Final one, which will come to us on Monday night from Pittsburgh, where the Steelers don't lose Monday night football Monday night football games, whether that applies to the playoffs. Man, I'm gonna grab a freaking what's that thing that helps you learn different languages?
Coors Light. No, yes. That's not it.
Coors Light and Rosetta Stone, and I'll figure out how to speak English by tomorrow, I promise. I think a lot of people think Houston's going to blow out Pittsburgh because of the inconsistency of their offense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have as much faith in that happening because of the inconsistency of Houston's offense, which I think is a big factor here. I know the Steelers, and Mac has talked about this several times, let Aaron Rodgers call the whole damn offense. They're a way better football team. I think you can get a very galvanizing kind of thing. The big win seems like Tomlin's going to stay. They knock off the Steelers or the Ravens in that game last weekend that was back and forth, could have easily gotten ugly for either team.
Mm-hmm.
They stuck it out. And I didn't call Aaron Rodgers the most dangerous man left in the NFL postseason for no reason. You're giving him a seat at the table here, and I think the people dismissing the Steelers because of the inconsistency of their offense are putting too much faith in consistency from the Texans' offense. You still got to score points with a great defense, and I don't know how easy that's going to be for Houston.
No, I don't know either. I mean, they're going to have to rely on Woody Marks to get a lot of yards here, but I just look at the Pittsburgh offense, and I'm just, when they had that explosion in the fourth quarter the other night, I'm like, where has this been all year? Like they have flashes of brilliance. Like the game against Detroit was pretty good in my opinion, and then they flame out against a team like Cleveland, and then fourth quarter against Baltimore they look great. It's been kind of Jekyll and Hyde, but if you have Aaron Rodgers under center, I think you still have a little ace in your back pocket there. And his experience and his decision making, I mean, on those last drives, his decision making was fantastic. So I would trust that over the inexperience of a CJ Stroud any day of the week. Plus, I like the fact that Pittsburgh's at home in this game. If Pittsburgh was on the road, if this game was the 1:30 Saturday at Houston game that we usually see, I'd probably lean towards Houston, but I kind of like Pittsburgh in this one. I'm not saying they're going to go much further than this, but I like Pittsburgh's chances.
Why does it sound like something's on fire in here?
That's because it's your bets. They are going up in smoke because you put them all on the Houston Texans.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not happening. The biggest key here for Pittsburgh, when we talk about their offense, when you really dive into the matchup a little bit more, it's can Pittsburgh get the ball out effectively and quickly? I loved your play of Kenny Gainwell for a touchdown in this game because he's a guy that Rodgers can get the ball out to quickly. Calvin Austin is another guy that he can get the ball out to quickly. And oh, by the way, something that nobody's really talked about a ton this week so far, they're getting DK Metcalf back for this game, which is just going to open up those short, quick passes. Houston is 13th in EPA per defensive snap on passes that come out within 2.5 seconds of the snap. Rodgers' average pass comes out after 2.6 seconds, the quickest for anybody in the entire league. Shut the hell up out there, will you? That's the key here, is getting the ball out quickly. So I think the Gainwells and the Austins with DK Metcalf back make a huge difference in this game. I also, again, I question Houston's offense in a situation where this is not, your Saturday. This is the first time this franchise has not played that opening Saturday wild card weekend game. They're under the bright lights of Monday Night Football.
Yes.
In Pittsburgh, where, Renegade lives and Renegade moves on, hopefully, in this one, depending on which side. I've made it no point. I've not shied away from the point. The AFC title game I want to see is Pittsburgh and Buffalo. I think it'd be fantastic. As far as this game goes in our picks, TJ's playing the over at 39.5, which on the site that I'm building this for us with right now, it's actually gone to 38.5, so even better. Or my play, Nico Collins for a 20-yard reception or more in this one. So let's flip the coin and see where we go, and then I'll give you, and trust me, I've only got 5 of the picks in here. This is a whopping list right here.
All right, here we go. Heads, we're taking Nico.
Nico Collins, over 20 yards for his longest reception. I think the reason that I like that play a lot, too, in this game is because I can foresee this one being a situation where they're going to have to throw the ball downfield at some point in this game.
I do too.
If they're behind and that's what they get left at, I think, he's game for a long reception. As we saw with Zay Flowers, the Steelers can be susceptible to the big pass down the field late in games, especially. So putting all those together. So Panthers plus 10.5, Chicago Bears on the money line. I'm going to tell you even where we're betting this one, too, because you can still get the Bears on this site at plus money. So that's what we got. Bills, we're going to take them at -1 on this site, not -1.5.
All right.
Brock Purdy for an anytime touchdown. The Patriots -3.5. And Nico Collins for 20 yards or more on his longest reception. It's a plus 13,846 for you math geniuses out there. A $5 bet wins you just a hair short of $700. So we've got a $10 bet we put out that could win you $250 on the touchdown trio. Again, if you missed that, it's Drake May, Kenny Gainwell, DeAndre Swift. Then this one, a $5 bet can win you $700. So worst case, you lose $15. Best case, you're really happy with us. And the last time we did this, we were pretty good. Play them straight, play them together. That's always up to you. On tomorrow's show, I'll recap the Fiesta Bowl and then give you my thoughts on the game from tonight. I'll also give you an actual pick, a specific pick on the Peach Bowl tomorrow. Our top 12 favorite player prop plays for the weekend. I just gave you a couple of them, but we're going to take 4 from each of us. Yeah, we'll throw a buck on it to try and go 12 for 12. Not trying to tell you that's possible, but just our favorite player prop angles for the week. And we'll have a final word as well tomorrow because it is Friday now that we're back to normal on shows. I need Rosetta Stone and Coors Light so I can learn English by tomorrow's show. So without any further garbling from me, do you have any final words as you get out of here for the week on this Thursday?
No, I'm looking forward to this weekend of football and the greatest quarterback on planet Earth, watching his performance on Saturday night.
The irony that the TJ After Dark game is Packers and Bears.
Good
TJ's
Lord.
game of the weekend, he can't wait to see his Packers and Bears. I think TJ's pushing all his chips in on the table to see the Bears lose the game, even though from a betting standpoint here, we want the Bears to win the game. Look at that thing, though, man. We go through some really rough weekends of football to get to these weekends of football. Next weekend's always my favorite one with the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, and then before you know it, we'll have a national title game.
Yep.
Who are we talking about next week in the national title game, T? Who is the matchup?
I think we're talking about Indiana and Mississippi. I think both of these teams are teams of destiny, especially Indiana. They have a chance to run the table. They'll have a chance to run the table, and Mississippi will have a chance to show that maybe Lane Kiffin didn't take the right job.
The storylines coming out of this one. I wish I could get down there tonight. I mean, I can get in for $60, but I really wanted to see Indiana, Oregon here. I'm not going to complain because we've got 5 days of playoff football, and it's freaking incredible. Follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show, everywhere but Snapchat because we're not 12 and Snapchat sucks. Got some Harbaugh thoughts later. After dark will be Bears and Packers. Max got Patriots and the Chargers on Sunday night, and then we'll mix in a bunch of other stuff in there for you. Next time we'll talk to you in this space is on Tuesday in our customary spot, 5:30 on the West Coast, 8:30 on the East Coast. For everybody behind the scenes, for Vegas Mac, for T, Mike, enjoy the Fiesta Bowl. Let's have a fiesta, baby. We'll talk with you tomorrow.